I'm getting a lot of comments like this in my video about federal overreach, so we need to talk about the federal spending power. But first, we need to take a step back and talk about federalism under the Canadian Constitution. The Constitution Act of 1867 divides subject matters between those of exclusive federal jurisdiction and those of exclusive provincial jurisdiction. That means anything that is of provincial jurisdiction, the federal government is not supposed to be able to regulate, and vice versa. For example, the Constitution gives the provinces exclusive jurisdiction over the administration of hospitals. That means, under the Canadian Constitution, the federal government is not supposed to make any regulations about the administration of hospitals. Now, even though this is written clear as day in the Constitution, many federal politicians don't care. It's not very popular when you're a politician running for federal election to say, you know what, I recognize there are problems with the administration of healthcare, but the Constitution limits what I'm able to do here, and I'm going to respect the Constitution. So instead, talk to your provincial officials. Even though that's what's constitutionally correct, it's a lot more popular to say, yes, as Prime Minister of Canada, I will fix healthcare. And so that's what federal politicians have been saying for over a century. Which means federal politicians needed to find a way to make hospital regulations even if the Constitution said they weren't allowed to. And so what they came up with is the spending power. Basically, the federal spending power is what happened when federal politicians decided, okay, we're not allowed to make hospital regulations, but we are allowed to tax people and we are allowed to do whatever we want with the money we raise through those taxes. So we're not allowed to make healthcare regulations, but we are going to tax the citizens of provinces for healthcare reasons. And then we're going to create our own series of guidelines about hospital administration, and we're going to withhold the money we've taxed from the provinces unless the provincial governments agree to follow our guidelines. And since we've already taxed the money, the provinces have that much less money to tax their own citizens in order to enact their own regulations. So the provinces aren't going to have a choice but to follow our guidelines. How that's not the same thing as the federal government just directly making regulations about hospital administration is beyond me. Now, the Supreme Court has decided that this doesn't technically violate the Constitution, but it's pretty clear that that was not the spirit of the Constitution to begin with. And that's how we get to the federal spending power and the federal government withholding transfers from the provinces for things that are entirely within the province's own jurisdiction. This is a very controversial topic among people who care about the well-being of the Canadian Constitution. It's also one of the 5 reasons Quebec didn't sign the updates to the Constitution in 1982. But so long as electors either don't know or don't care about how Canadian federalism is supposed to work, federal politicians are going to continue to promise to use it. And to be clear, this is true for federal politicians of all political leanings. It's on them to decide if they're going to respect how our federalism is supposed to work, and it's on us as electors to decide if we're going to continue to reward those who don't.